Well, thought since we'll be getting close, I decided to try and take my anodized aluminum trim from that to that. I'm not doing too much exciting here other than some quadruple aught steel wool. Just kind of working with it. Technically, you gotta be careful not to do too much, or you could wear off the anodizing and then it'll start pitting and being all sorts of ugly. I don't really have the budget to send this off to get all re-anodized, so this is what I've been doing with my trim. I could spray some clear coat over this to help protect it from oxidizing. That's kind of what we're doing. It cleans up really nice. Obviously it's not brand new, but being that these are original, a little bit nicer quality than the repops. So here we go. A little bit better. Even this one, which is in good shape, you know, compared to what I just did. In fact, this one's kind of lost its shine. Yeah, you can almost like see the fact that's oxidized. I don't like that one. It's not that bad, but it's just not shiny. Yeah, same with that one. I've got some extra pieces, so. Versus this. Kind of crazy. Back window, I actually had a few different ones, and unfortunately it was kind of like picking the best that I could, because I had some that were pretty decently shiny, but they had some pretty big dents in them, and that's no good. So I'm just kind of like picking some of this old. This one's got some paint on it. But it's coming off. Kind of a slow process. I know someone who had all of their anodized stuff get done, but it was almost $1,000. So we'll just clean it up. Probably doesn't show very good on camera how, you know, detailed the little pitting and stuff is, but it will be presentable when I'm done. I could sand it down pretty aggressively and then buff it all the way back up, but I'm just going to stick to this. It's looking much better. Some of this stuff has some like old butyl, I imagine, on it. I'm just scraping it off with a razor. Some of these pieces have a little bit of like old butyl in them, and I found that naphtha works pretty good on that stuff. Just kind of like damp a rag, get it down in there, get a wire brush. That just helps clean the channel out a little bit. These trim pieces are not the ones that I had planned on using for my car. These are some extra pieces for the bottom of the back window. But I wanted to try a little experiment. As mentioned before, this is anodized aluminum. There's a whole lot of sweet YouTube videos that I just got done watching explaining what that means. You should do that as well. But it is kind of milky and it has some discoloration, just years of use. I had an idea and figured we'd see how well these turn out. Keep in mind what we're going to be doing is taking off the anodizing with this. This seems to be the product of choice. I'll spray it on there, let it sit for, I don't know, an hour or so, and then we'll kind of use some Scotch-Brite, scrub it off, and then we'll be working the grits. I don't know, we'll see where we can start, 220, 320, and work our way up to maybe a couple thousand grit, and then we'll polish them. Of course, that just leaves bare aluminum, meaning it'll probably oxidize very quickly afterwards. There's things you can do to help with that, whether it be clear coating or maybe rubbing it down with some sort of oil. We're just going to kind of use this as an experiment. These are extra pieces I have, so no harm in trying. I think first things, I'll just clean the dirt off of this, and we'll go from there. So you can see underneath where no light was hitting it or no weather, it's pretty shiny. I would say that's how it should look in its normal factory form. You can see here the light isn't reflecting as well. It doesn't quite look mirror-like, a little dull. It's really not horrible, and if this was the only piece I had, I'd probably just run it the way it is. But I'm kind of curious just to see how well we can get this to shine. Well, we're going to go ahead and just spray these down, let them sit. I guess while I'm at it, I should probably spray it in the oven where it belongs and do some chores today, huh? Alright, why don't we let that sit for a while and see what it does. Well, it's been sitting for about 2 hours, I think. You can kind of see this weird crusty layer that's formed on it. Alright, let's see if we can get that off. Interesting. It's kind of like coming off. So I'm trying something a little different. I got most of it off with the Scotch-Brite, but I'm kind of wet sanding with 400 grit, and it's kind of taking off this darker stuff pretty quickly. I guess the goal here will be to get it cleaned off and then shine back up. So now I'm kind of going back through and wet sanding with 400 grit and some WD-40. You can kind of see this is what it ended up looking like after I scrubbed all that stuff off compared to the original. So it's quite dull now. What I'm hoping to do with this is just kind of flatten it out. There was kind of like some bumps and stuff left over from the whole process of getting the anodizing off. Now I'm just kind of wet sanding away here, hoping to slowly start shining it back up. So I got 4, I'll go to 600, I think 800, 1000, 1200, probably work our way up to 2000. This is a lot of work, a lot of elbow grease. If my car was a show car, I would probably consider doing something like this to all the trim. My car being a driver, and seems how I live on the coast, I have a feeling that this would turn not so good very quickly. But, like I said, this is more of an experiment. I am noticing kind of this weird difference right around where the holes are at. And I don't know if that's because that's where some of the anodizing is still currently, or something else happened there. You can kind of see some difference. See if that comes off. Alright, so you can tell the difference here between 600. I've still got these weird little marks here. I'm not quite sure. And this is kind of fresh off the easy off stuff. we'll leave that one so we can compare the two. I'll go ahead and hit this with some 800 now. Still lubricating with WD-40. Obviously, if you were going to use a clear coat on this, you would have to really wipe this down with lacquer thinner or naphtha or something before you spray clear on it, but my intent would be to leave it with some WD-40 on it. So you can see some differences here with the up to 2000 grit. It's kind of got this nice brushed aluminum, and then the stuff I'm going to use is pretty obvious difference there. We're going to see if we can get that a little bit better. So now we're just kind of using some of this Mcguire's polish here. Starting off with more of a heavy cut. I'm just putting this on by hand right now. Obviously you could use buffing machines. I just got a little foam pad. Just kind of taking those fine scratches out. One thing to consider is that anodized aluminum is a little bit more resistant and tougher of a finish than, of course, bare aluminum. So it's pretty easy to scratch this stuff. But it also makes it a little bit easier to polish too. Been kind of wiping it off, and if I go pretty fast with a shop rag, it really starts to get that shine we're after. A lot of elbow grease with this. So here you go, all without any power tools, but this is kind of what we started with after we removed the anodizing, and that was just kind of this dull aluminum look. And then after working up the grits and hand polishing, here is our final product. And compare this to a piece that is not polished. This is just how it should look. So we're pretty close. I think if you did use power tools, you should be able to get this to a little bit more of a mirror shine. But for a driver car, I think doing it like this, if you have more time than you do money, is a good way to get some decent looking trim out of it. Currently there's nothing on this, so we can leave this outside, and chances are it would corrode up pretty quick. Another option, like we mentioned before, is to spray some sort of clear coat on here, maybe rub it down with some oil. But overall, hopefully this helps someone out there. Let me know what you think.